Welcome back, everyone, to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here. Now, for today, what can I say? We have on the show the incredible, amazing, the badass, the superstar, the legendary, the one and only, the super Laura. Laura, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing fantastic. I mean, what better way to continue having an epic start of the week that to be chatting with someone as badass as you know what I mean?
Well, like this, I'm loving this flattery for sure.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, what can I say now, right? Now, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow, helps a lot. But also, on the description below, you're gonna find all of our social media. Let's follow her and let's discover why she's super badass. And without further more, let's jump in. So, I want to start this whole conversation by throwing out, the first question, which is, what inspired you to pursue a career that combines performing, videography, and podcasting as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like through all of those modalities, self-expression is in there. So for me, authenticity is really important. And I think as we go through life, that changes as we grow as people. And so, yeah, I think when it comes to being in the arts, like it's all about self-expression so we can all relate to one another and like help this human experience not be so hard because it's a hard experience. Life is hard. But if we can help each other in some way by sharing our stories, I feel like that is something that can really help each other to relate and we can see ourselves in one another and not feel so alone.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I like it. I mean, it's amazing, right? How you are able to connect with someone with anything you're able to create, and and I think also the beauty of this whole globalization going on, internet, so on, is the fact that now you can be able to share whatever you are doing to basically every corner of this world, which is great because at the same time it opens the possibility for new people to somehow get related and to discover new things. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the videography actually is something that's more new in my life. So that was born out of being like a frustrated artist in terms of, we need headshots, show reels, all these kinds of things. So um, I was born in 91, so it's actually my birthday next weekend. So I grew up in the time when the internet was introduced.
Mm.
So for me, as a dancer performer growing up, um, like I always knew the concept of you needed a show reel. Um, but throughout my years of doing a lot of community theatre, because I ended up doing about 10 to 12 years of community theatre, a lot of that footage is archived and belongs to the company. So I wasn't even able to get my hands on footage very easily. So still being in the industry and aspiring to do so much more with my career, like, and with social media, we live in a world where you've got to show people what you can do, and especially being a performer, it's a visual medium anyway. Yeah, so I sort of took it on myself to be like, I'm sick and tired of not having any content of all my years of performing. Now's the time to really like make it happen. And if someone's going to make it happen for myself, it's going to be me. So I've got performer friends around me, circus performers and dancers. Everyone sort of does everything, and we all feel we all have this same opinion that it costs money to do photo shoots, and they're quite expensive. And like, I don't want to belittle or negate the fact that price and quality go hand in hand. They 100% do go hand in hand. But just at the moment with the economy and the cost of living and stuff, it's just about becoming resourceful and looking at the skills that you have and how can you use those skills already, or how can you develop those skills as well. And there's so many like educators online these days selling their courses or short courses or ebooks. And so I just decided to sort of go down that route. I feel like there's only so much you can learn on your own for free, like via YouTube. But once you buy the product, it's just handed to you. And, when you're purchasing something, you're like basically speeding up your progress around that process of like gathering all your knowledge. So yeah, there's different ways to sort of like look at how you want to spend your money as an artist and how that can like propel you forward faster as well. Um, but my podcast was actually born throughout 2020. So during COVID lockdowns here in Melbourne, we were locked down 6 different times over weeks at a time. And I was living alone. I was fresh out of a breakup with someone, and so I went through like almost like a spiritual awakening during that period of time. It was quite intense, but I wouldn't change anything apart from the whole lockdown situation. But I started the podcast because number one, I wanted to, but it was going to be something creative, but mainly as well, it was going to help me connect with my friends more because I was living alone. So at the time, my strategy was, pick a friend, and most of my friends are creative in that way. And I would just say to them, uh, you know, I'd love to have you on the podcast, and we're going to just talk about three of your most passionate topics, and they can just be anything. Like one of my friends wanted to talk about musical theatre, cats as in the animal, not the musical. And like something else I can't remember at the moment. But it really gave people something in that moment as well to feel seen and heard and be social and also like take our mind off of what was happening in the world too. So that's how it was born. And then over time, it's now evolved into what it's called. So the dancer and me. It was more primarily like a mindfulness um, like had a bit of a mindfulness lens towards the way I marketed it. It still has that, but as I've evolved, it's sort of come into this space of being a creative and artist and entrepreneur and helping other artists and entrepreneurs um, on their path through a lens of mindfulness as well. So it's a lot of like truthful chats. It's usually what's on my mind on the day or that week, like things that have been coming to me. Um, and because I still currently live alone, so it's me with myself a lot. So I have a lot of thoughts. I'm a bit of a deep thinker, and it's also become this sort of what do you want to call it? I want to say modality again, or it's more like a an outlet is what I'm trying to say. It's become an outlet that I can also jump on and like channel my thoughts and kind of talk it through. And then, for me, it just comes back to I really hope whatever I'm sharing, I'm not the only one that thinks those things out there. And so people can feel less alone and more connected as well.
That's badass. I love it. Yeah, that is amazing. Wow. I mean, such a journey, right? It's incredible how, yeah, like it's incredible sometimes where life will take us. You know what I mean? And certain
Hmm.
moments or situations that are happening could lead us to something great at some point. Yeah, I sometimes think about that. Like it's like you just need to let yourself go and let your mind go and your creative sides go at the same time, and eventually something connects with it. The fact that you were able, for example, to create this podcast in the middle of a pandemic and use that tool at the same time to chat with friends and everything, but also to help you somehow to have a good chat to kind of distract your mind going on. I mean, I think that is
Yeah.
that is what it's all about somehow, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, this, even just you and me sitting here right now is, somewhat of a miracle because it's been like, a podcast is what has made us be able to connect and like spread our mission, purpose, whatever you want to call it, like even further. Um, yeah, so it's like we're wanting to like serve others through our own personal truth and like what we want to put out there. So yeah, it's almost like, when you think of a hug, like you can't give a hug without receiving a hug. So it's like this energetic exchange. Yeah.
Totally. I like it. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And tell me, I mean, yeah, you're basically blowing my mind here away because yeah, it's true. I mean, at the
I was
end,
like,
it's
stop me if I'm going too deep.
no, I love it. I love
I'm
it.
a
I mean,
deep thinker.
if you go that road, I'll tag along for sure. I like it. And yeah, I mean, it's just awesome how yeah, like the whole possibilities that you are able to create, and to let yourself go and to be interested into, learn different stories and to, get it yeah, like mixing your creative thoughts with another creative person and to chat along things that perhaps might inspire them somehow. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
incredible, and at least to me, that is one of the things that I love about, for example, this podcast. Like yeah, of my platform here, the fact that I've been able to chat with so many people from yeah from all over the world. Basically, I mean, it's awesome and it's incredible because at the end of the day, I mean, we might, I mean, we're totally live in totally different countries, totally different languages, culture, all of that. We might and we and yeah, we might have things in common or we might not have things in common. But chatting about, being creative and all of that, it's finding common ground. And for that, I'm able to create, really interesting and fun, sometimes very deep conversations, but just the way it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think as well, like something to add in, was like so many of us as performers, we all have a different relationship to our careers because, some of us have side hustles or day jobs and things like that. And when I've sort of like watched other people's content, it's something that I've always wondered more so about like other creatives, but it's something we don't talk about because we want to put on this front of like, I'm a performer and like we are, because we all wear lots of different masks. But for me personally, like I work like 30 hours a week doing something completely different. So, for me, I've been a barber for the last 10 years. So I've got my hairdressing qualification and, that's still creative. It's still people focused and things like that. But it, at the same time, is unrelated. Like that life is unrelated to my creative life. So I feel often like I'm living a double life because on the inside my heart says like I'm a performer and I'm a singer, dancer, actress, like, I want to start learning the drums, like kind of doing like a bunch of stuff. But then we have to make money to live, so you go off and do the day job. um and that is just the reality. I wish so many more of us were able to speak on the reality of that because like we live in a land of social media and we want to put on this image, and like that's great and everything. Like I'm all about law of attraction and manifesting and like, the image you put out is what you want to get back. But like I'm all about authenticity too. So for me, I get disappointed sometimes not knowing the realities of these performers because it's so great to watch these interviews. Um, but like it's so easy as a listener or an audience member to sort of constantly feel that like they make it look so easy when really behind the curtain it's probably not easy. Um, so it's not about like bringing the vibe down. That's not what I'm about at all. But it's also just like looking and seeing how other people are doing things differently and like maybe what's holding us back as well. And working through those blocks to be able to like, live the life that we do want to live. But it's a great thing to be multifaceted and wear a lot of different hats because in the industry of, auditions and gigs, these things are not always consistent. It's not always like that. And You know, you hear people talk a lot about dry spells and things like that with work. So I think it is okay and healthy to have an identity outside of performing too. So you have different outlets and different like things that are going to like fuel you and like nourish you. Um, so, you know, when one part of your world is like maybe overwhelming, you can always like dip into a different part of your world, which is going to like give you some sustenance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, what I'm trying to say here is that it's incredible how even till this day there is kind of this little bit misconception going on, especially like on actors, right? That somehow some people might think that it's super easy, right? That you just get to audition and then you will get a role on a big budget project and then boom, life solved. And at least with the actors that I have interviewed, multiple actors have like another side job going on to pay stuff. I mean, we
Mm.
live in a world that we need the money basically to survive, and yeah, they will have multiple side jobs here and there, and then other free time they will be spending it into still tweaking their their whole career, their acting career, their the creation of the characters, like all of that. And I find that amazing because it shows, at least to me, that basically, everything's possible. I do think sometimes we get this idea that um that perhaps that because we didn't we don't live in a specific country or in a specific city, we're not able to pursue any type of career, and that's wrong. I mean,
Mm.
as I said here on my end, on the people that I have talked to, multiple will be living in in different types of the world, and they're able to perform and
Mm.
to follow their passion. And I wish people would be able to kind of understand that it's okay to and that if you have a side job to that basically sustain you, that's okay. That's great actually because you are able to
Yeah.
sustain yourself and be able to working on your craft, and then one day you might make it. And
Mhm.
during that process, take those moments in which you are working on your craft and then you are developing yourself, and then one day, you'll be making it,
Yeah.
or maybe not. It could happen, but hey, at the end, if it is your passion, you're gonna be doing it for the rest of your life, basically. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. It's like a constant preparation to be ready for the right time. It's yes, you do definitely have to put like a lot of like faith and trust in yourself and in the unknown for sure.
Hmm.
And like
Hmm.
a question I've asked myself over time is like, you know, if you you know, in my brain, if I've got a specific goal, like the biggest goal for me, it's like if that wasn't able to be achieved, like what would you be doing regardless? And it's like, well, I'd still be doing these things like being creative and practicing or, you know, working on my craft, etc. So yeah, it's a great perspective on it.
Totally. I mean, that's like the whole thing here. I remember back when I started, I had this idea to. So at that point, I was without a job. Um, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be working on this 24/7, non-stopping, and then I'm gonna make it, right? But then time passed, and then I was doing what, like 10, 12 interviews daily. And I remember that at some point, I was just not enjoying it at all. And I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like I was excited about this and now I kind of hate it. And then later on I start to understand that it's a process, it's gonna take time for sure. Yes, you better buckle up and
Mm,
enjoy the ride. And on the meantime, find a way to sustain yourself. And hey, if you can sustain yourself with your craft, congratulations. That's epic. But if not, that's okay. You can use
mm,
it's up to you to decide like how you're gonna be spending up your free time. Either you're gonna be spending it on totally something different, or if you're gonna spending it on your craft, or even sometimes you will be able like, you know what, I just want to take this day off to myself, which is good too. I do think sometimes we live with this mentality that you need to hustle 24/7. You need to work all day. You're gonna sleep till you die, and blah blah blah, and all of that. And perhaps for some people that might work, which is great, but at least to me, it's not because I was like, you know what, I need time for me to kind of regroup, to kind of take a break, take a breath, and then and then go back because
Yeah,
at least what I did,
definitely.
yeah, because at least what I ended up discovering is that you're not going to enjoy the ride, and if you don't enjoy the ride, then what's the point of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And also
yeah.
that there is no such thing as success overnight. It always takes time.
Mm,
For some people
yeah.
might be might take a little bit longer than others, but at the end it's a ride that you need to understand and you need to process. And that took me a while to kind of understand and be like, it's a process. Take my time and enjoy the whole experience, learn new things, work on your craft, and little by little you will start to see results. So,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know,
exactly. It's learning to enjoy the process. And yeah, take breaks when needed for sure. Um, yeah, like, burnout is real and like, yeah, we often can deal with, rejection sensitivity if you get a no with an audition and, there's so many factors involved. It's a roller coaster. Um, but it all adds to like the thicker tapestry of life and like how that gives you more wisdom and it makes you a better person. It builds character, and in the moment you just want to like
yeah,
like
totally.
swear your head off, and like in the moment you're not thinking that at all, but like in hindsight, um yeah, you learn a lot about yourself for sure through the journey. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, it's how life it's basically how things work, process. I sometimes think that we just forgot about that worth, because we're already getting used to receive everything, in a blink of an eye. You buy something online, and if
Yeah.
you're lucky, in the next few hours, you're gonna receive it. Like we are already used to this idea that whenever we hear the word process, instantly we feel that it's not gonna be, this is not gonna work. Um, I'm gonna be wasting time, and no, it's not. I mean, at the end, as I've been saying, it's just part of the whole experience to take your time to it. It's a process, and just make sure that you are at the same time taking care of yourself and enjoying it. And if at some point you're like, you know what, this is not what I wanted, that's fine. Find something else. But at least, give it a try. Give it a few months to to discover something. I think that's the whole beauty of life. The fact that as long as we're alive, we get the chance to use your time on what or on whenever we want. And it's up to us to
Yeah,
use
for
it
sure.
on something positive or on something that we really want to improve our lifestyle and improve our lives, basically, or just
Mm.
not doing anything and just wait for the inevitable at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, yeah, for sure. It's good to be able to fill your time with things that mean a lot to you, or, helps you to connect to your community or friends or like-minded people. I think it's, living alone for me has shown me how important it is to connect with people. Um,
Totally.
and yeah, like-minded people, especially because yeah, you bounce ideas off each other, and it's nice to feel seen on a deeper level for sure.
And isn't that great when you're living on yourself that somehow you are also starting to starting to connect with yourself more. You know what I mean? To start to create this connection with you. You start to actually learning how to live with yourself in a comfortable way. You know what I mean? I do think that is
Yeah.
sometimes one of the things that I constantly see it every now and then with some friends of mine, even that they will be desperate on finding a relationship, like like quickly, like super desperate, and they ended up finding someone, and once you see them together and they're like constantly fighting and things like that, and I'm like, yeah, not for me. You know what I mean? Because that is,
Yeah.
I tend to say like it's better if I work on myself first. I learn to have a good relationship with myself, learn to know more
Mm,
about what I like, what I don't like, things like that.
mm.
And eventually something, and then, yeah, eventually someone will knock on my door and we'll go from there. Or, I mean, I do
Yeah.
think that is one of the things here. I mean, because if you find it desperate, you're gonna find it for sure, yeah. But you know, if you didn't have time for
Yeah.
work properly on yourself to actually build a relationship with yourself, to actually put your happiness 100% on you, you're not gonna be
Mm.
able to have a healthy relationship with anyone because you haven't had this process on learning how to connect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think as well, like it's really important to know what you're wanting to bring into your life with what energy you're sitting with in the moment. So like if you're feeling desperate, it's easy to attract the wrong thing because like when you're open to just anything coming through, like you don't have boundaries or a filter for that, um, then you can easily attract something like toxic for you, whether it's a person, workplace, whatever. But if you're intentional and grounded before putting out what you're wanting to bring in, you're often going to get better results. So I'm a big believer that we can heal in relationships. Like we don't have to be perfectly healed before we get into a relationship. But I think it's from the initial intention as to like what you want from a relationship as opposed to just letting anything pass through. I've even had friends of mine, they were similar to yourself, just really wanted to be with someone, and then they were with a narcissist for a really long time, and that can like cause a lot of emotional damage that you then are left over with after the breakup. So you've got to deal with those emotional traumas, and then you've just made more work for yourself. So yeah, it's just good to be intentional and to be self-aware of what you're putting out there first, for sure. I think, yeah, living alone, it does it does force you to get to know yourself pretty quickly because, if your apartment's messy, you've only got yourself to argue with. Um, and often your physical space is a reflection of your mental space. So it's kind of like which came first, like the chicken or the egg, because I know if I clean up my space, I'm clearer here.
Mhm.
So sometimes you just have to bring that, um, yeah, you got to take small actions, even just do like a 10-minute cleanup or tidy up of your place, and you can think more clearly. Or, even simple things like don't just spend all your time in one area of your home. If you can go into like other areas of your home to get more inspiration, like be near natural light, um, and all these different things. It's good to just like change your perspective of your space too, maybe where you choose to meditate or do your writing or whatever it is. Um, that's something that I think when I first moved into living on my own, one of my friends told me that. She was just like, make sure you spend plenty of time in all areas of the house so you get to take up all that space. Um, so yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting, like mental perspectives on how we relate to the literal spaces that we're in as well. I know when I was doing share housing, I was always in my bedroom because that was like my safe space. It was 100% my own. And I always like gravitated to that. And then moving into my own apartment, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to just spend all my time in my bedroom. I get to like move around and spread out and like got to turn my kitchen into where I do all my like dancing and creative movement and expressive movement, and like I couldn't do that properly in a share living home. So there's pros and cons to all of it, but yeah, I think for my own personal projects like my videography, which is La Media, and then my podcast, like I do, especially the podcast, I do try and get out of the apartment as well. So I like to head down to the coast and I sit in my car or I go for a little walk, and like visually seeing the horizon does something to your brain. Like they've done studies on it. I think it just helps your perspective on you and where you are in this big blue ball in space. Um, but it expands my thinking, and I find I get more inspiration by changing my environment. So I'm sure a lot of other creatives can relate with that too. Even if it means like I know in the past like when I've had to learn lines, like I'll learn lines in one room if I'm practicing, and then walking into another room, I would then continue to practice those lines. And it's interesting, like, because your brain will make associations with your environment. So my brain subconsciously is like, I know these lines in this room, but you walk into from the bedroom to the kitchen and your brain is like, wait, what am I doing now? Like, what's the line? And because you're in a completely different environment. So, yeah, it's just interesting to be able to like sort of, I know lines aren't so creative, like that's more of the admin side of things, but in terms of just creativity in general, it is good to like get a change of scene just to help with your like perspective on things and let creativity come as well. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree on. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, it's just the way it is, you know. Sometimes you need to get outside for a bit so you can get the whole idea of, yeah, like the whole ideas flowing, and from there you can create something about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. And tell me, like, how has your approach to creativity evolved over the years, and what drives you to keep pushing boundaries?
Yeah. So, my creativity over the years, I mean, so when I was younger, like I did full-time dancing when I was 17, turned 18 that year. And I was always really focused on perfectionism. And I think if anyone that comes from a dance background knows what I'm talking about, especially around ballet technique. But I was training to just be the most versatile dancer that I could be in order to be hireable, things like cruise ship auditions, that kind of stuff. And so, with such an intense focus around like technique and perfectionism and just wanting to get the perfect lines or be the most flexible, the most strong that I could be, that really disconnected me from what it meant to like feel the music. So my teacher, he put me in front of the class one day and there were so many of us, there was about 40 students. And he was just like, um, he got me to do the routine. And the way that he explained to me what he was trying to like pull out of me was like, I want you to feel the music. Like, don't worry about the steps. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean don't worry about the steps? You've given me this whole sequence here. So I think my brain is very literal like that. I need more like specific cues, I suppose. But saying to somebody like just feel the music more, to me that's really vague. It's like, can you break that down? So anyway, I did my best and we ran the routine and I tried to not like, point my feet so much or whatever. And so it got this like reaction from my class, like a positive reaction. But I sort of still walked away from that experience being a little confused. Now, like as I left that course, I took like a 10-year hiatus from like solid training because I'd been training from the age of 3 all the way to like 18. And I was burnt out. But no one knew what burnout was back then. Mental health back then in 2009 was like, not really a common thing spoken about. So um, I ended up exploring what he meant by feel the music in my own personal time. So I learned I was connecting to music and dancing in my own private space to sort of like almost like a therapy. So if I was going through something, I wanted that to sort of move through my body and it would help me feel the feelings, that kind of thing. And so feeling the music, I think, is a very personal thing because we're all so different. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different life experiences. So reflecting back on that moment when my teacher was like, I want you to feel the music in that moment, it probably wasn't a song that I connected to very well. I might not have really loved the choreography he gave me because you've got to remember like these are sort of like structured steps in choreography and a song chosen by someone else and handed to you. And as a dancer, I think what isn't spoken about enough is acting. Because when you're doing something, it's like, we're being taught to be commercial dancers. So basically, it's a copy paste model. It's like, I'm giving you all this choreography, and here's the song. Now I want you to, you know, produce a really great product from what I've given you. It's like being given a brief. But I think as a creative person, and the way that we create from our emotions, it comes from the inside. I think in order to really feel something, it's got to come from the creator, like the artists themselves. I think that's how it's going to be the most authentic, especially to the person, like the audience. So yeah, I've sort of grappled over the years with like trying to figure out that disconnect, because I can create my own dance piece with a song that really connects to me, and it will be so much more emotional or heartfelt or not as perfect, but it'll convey like a stronger message or whatever like that. So yeah, I think I'm not sure if any of you would know the movie Strictly Ballroom. It's a Baz Luhrmann movie.
Mhm.
Um, it's an Australian movie, actually. So yeah, Baz Luhrmann. Um, so yes, he also directed Moulin Rouge, the movie with Nicole Kidman, and yeah. So in that movie, the main character Scott, he's this ballroom dancer, and he's quite talented. And there's this big competition that they want to win, and he's known as a little bit of a rebel. So he always likes to break the rules and dance his own steps, is what they say. Like, and so I really related to that when I was thinking back on my time doing full-time dance, and like you're going to always bring the best emotion and the best like performance if you're able to sort of like not break the rules, but bring your own. You've got to bring something of yourself to the thing. And, if you're working with a choreographer or a director that you've got a good enough relationship with, you'll be able to like communicate what you want to impart on the character, or what steps are your strengths, to be able to really like give the audience the message and maybe the passion that wants to come through. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question how it's evolved over the years. At the end of the day, it comes back to people and like how we connect again. So, like I just said, if you have a good relationship with a director or a choreographer, I think creativity has to be authentic. Otherwise, you're mimicking something. Like when it comes to authenticity, like it's about truth. And, truth is something that only is happening for yourself. So, like, you've got to then communicate what that is. Yeah, I don't know if this is like translating, but yeah, so I think it's always ever evolving. I think, being a 17, 18-year-old, you're still really young, and you don't quite fully have a scope on the world around you. And back then, social media wasn't what it is now. So I suppose back then I was a lot more sheltered. Whereas now, turning 33, like my creativity has now become more on social media, and like the videos I put out, or the reels I put out, or what is my authenticity telling me to do today. Um, so, and then when it comes to my podcast, like I'm happy to put out an episode when I'm feeling inspired to or called to. It's not really this thing that I want to, at the moment at least, it's not like I have to put something out every single week. Um, and I know in order to gain growth, that's really important, is consistency. But I value quality over quantity, especially like at the moment at least. And so, yeah, I'll put out a podcast episode when I'm feeling called to, for instance. Yeah, so I think it changes day to day. I think I've learnt to take the pressure off myself. Um, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I'll take it. That's badass. Just saying. That is, yeah, that is, yeah, that's just the way it is. basically. Yeah. And
Mm.
talking, like a little bit about your podcast. Tell me, do you still remember like that first episode you did? And yeah, like how was the whole vibe to it? You know what I mean? When you were once you finished it and be
Yeah.
like, it's done.
I think because these days I do a lot of solo episodes, and I've had to get more comfortable on camera or over a microphone, and that just comes with experience and time. But in the beginning, it felt a little clunky. I had to sort of figure out the technology side of it. Like that's in my head, that's the admin part as well. And so like when it comes to having a guest on the podcast, like I had to really calm their nerves down too. So depending who you have on, like some people are really comfortable and some people are not. So like having the chat previously is a great way to kind of like let them ask you any questions or concerns that they have. Um, and the more confident or comfortable I became on camera or over mic, um, it it was a different perspective for me to be like, oh yeah, people get nervous doing this. I forgot. So I had to then sort of readjust the way that I host and just really make sure I almost have like a little procedure that I do with the guest just to make sure that they're comfortable and want them to relax because you bring out the best in people when everyone feels relaxed and can just talk off the cuff or just be themselves. So yeah, that's always my biggest aim is I want people to be comfortable. um yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. It took me almost 4, yeah, like nah, 3 months. Yeah, it took me 3 months to be kind of actually comfortable in front of a camera. The first couple of weeks, oh, it was,
Yeah.
it was really awkward for me. Like there was something about it that didn't quite connect. I was like, and then later on, I switched to, having a mic and everything. And, a friend of mine asked me like the other day, like how you were able to look yourself comfortable to it. And then yeah, I told him that you just go, eventually you're gonna start to feel more and more comfortable to it. You're gonna start to, yeah, like be more relaxed to it, and not look all
Mm.
nervous and basically saying nothing but nonsense, you know. And like having guests helps you a lot because you start to somehow train yourself on reading people somehow, you know what I mean? But I mean
Oh,
back
definitely.
back when I started until now, I mean I have become like more precise sometimes into reading people and to see like, okay, they're actually feeling comfortable or perhaps not. And I mean I have interviewed some people that no matter how comfortable I try them to feel, they're just not. And at first, I
Yeah.
remember that was kind of a shocking to me. I was like, why? But then you start to understand, like, it's not personal, it's just the way they are, and that's fine. So then be
Yeah.
able to kind of connect with a personality like that. It is tough, sure, but at the end, once you get it, yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it's amazing. So yeah, I would say that I would say that that this has helped me to be able to kind of read people like a little bit more and to understand
Mm.
people at the same time, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I really think my hairdressing background has helped a lot in that way. Because, during an appointment, I'm happily to call myself a talker. That's why I started a podcast. But yeah, just wanting my client to feel comfortable in the chair. And so I kind of reminded myself when I was getting nervous on the podcast in the early stages, I was like, Laura, you're a hairdresser. Like, you can talk the leg off a chair, as my dad would say. So just reminding yourself of your own skills and like where you've come from and what you've done in the past can really help inform you to be confident. Like I don't think it really matters who you are. We all, to some level, will always come across feeling insecure. It changes day to day or case by case. So I think if you can give yourself those reminders, um, you know, often for often in our lives we all have to deal with people. So I think it's just reminding yourself to be like, you know, look to where you are confident outside of the podcast or outside of the project and be like, I've got this. Yeah. You have to like give yourself some positive self-talk to propel you forward. Like to me, that is so important. I was recently watching on Netflix, there's a docu-series called Sprint, and it's about the Olympian sprinters of today and like what they've been through and where, their journey to the Olympics. And I think one of them said, like, you know, to be an Olympian or to be able to win, it's 40% mental. And so, like, I like to kind of take those elite level ways of thinking and bring it into my own life. So, yeah, definitely looking at the way we speak to ourselves in here is going to help a lot. If you can, if you have a negative thought, that's okay, but you can interrupt it with saying, no, we're going to think this instead and like put that on your path. Because, yeah, you'll be happier, you'll have better results, you'll perform better. Um, it'll just strengthen your self belief and all these different things. So,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and at the same time, it kind of helps you too to kind of dwell with bad moments every now and then. It's inevitable. We can't be happy 100% of the time.
no.
So I think that at the same time you get the chance to kind of how to dwell on moments like that and kind of nurture yourself to basically grieve on those. Sure, take your time and then get up and keep moving forward. And I mean, at the end,
Yeah,
I tend to say myself that it's all about perspective. It's depending how you see things. There are some things
definitely.
that sure, yeah, they're bad, but sometimes life happens, and you will have a bit of a miss unfortunate events every now and then, but learn from them.
Yeah.
Sure, take grief on those, curse a little bit, why not? And then,
Yeah.
you
Let it
know,
out.
oh,
You
and
have
then
to
move.
like, you've got to feel it fully. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been working on this kind of process that whenever I get like those moments, I will take like a minute or two to say whatever nonsense comes out of my mouth, but on the fly, not to someone, just just to let it all out. And then once I've kind
Yeah.
of like, okay, I said too much nonsense now, then I'm like, okay, let's focus now, let's get back up, and then let's keep moving forward, because yeah, I mean, sometimes, as I said, sometimes life happens and it's up to you to take it
Yeah.
on whatever you want, and if you want to stay feeling miserable and waste time to it, sure.
Mm.
But it's not gonna help you at all. So, and at the same
Yeah.
time, I mean, we are like the other day. I mean, like the other day, I was just thinking about this about how how limited we are. You know what I mean? That our time here is just it's when we realize it's been already 30 years or one day 40, and then you're like, oh, like like where all this time went. So I at least
Yeah.
I try to take things different and to do as best as I can to enjoy everything from it, and to make sure that by the end of the day, hey, at least I did enjoy it everything. Yeah, I did enjoy it everything that I could, and learn from it.
Yeah.
And yeah, just enjoy life basically. As I said here, I mean, life is too short, and once you
We are
realize,
here for a short amount of time. Yeah.
and also be able to just go out there and do, as we were saying before, to just go out there and do your thing here. So
Mm-mm.
mm,
So yeah, me being here in Melbourne, like I've traveled to LA, I think it was back in 2016, 2017. So I would really love to come to New York for my next big trip. So I'm thinking at some point in the next like 12 to 18 months would be ideal. And yeah, being in Australia, we're so far away from everything else. It's like 24 hours of flying almost to get anywhere. So when we travel from here to go, up to the Northern Hemisphere, it's such a commitment that I think we bring this sort of energy with us where we've got to make the most of what we're doing when we're there because it's such a long way to travel back home. Yeah, that experience I had in LA was really awesome. But would definitely love to explore the dance classes around New York, and just the culture there and like Broadway. So it would be phenomenal to get on Broadway. That is a huge dream of mine. And yeah, that would be awesome. But just to have the experience too would just be really, I think, I'd get a lot of like growth from it as well. Life experience, you just gotta like go for it. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, yeah, just go for it. I mean, I mean, think about this. And this has helped me a lot. Check this out. So, we basically are living in a giant rock floating in the middle of nothing. You know what I mean? I mean, what
Yeah.
sense is that? I mean, like when I start to think about that, it's like, and I'm complaining about what? You know what I mean? I mean, I should be enjoying things more and take a risk
Mm,
and actually use my time to do something that I yeah that nurtures me, that helps me, that that I can
mm,
feel comfortable to it, because at the end of the day, life
yeah.
happens, and then what? You know what I mean? I repeated to
Yeah.
myself that I didn't what? Did you enjoy life as best as you could? Did you did the things you wanted? So instead of
Yeah.
thinking about something, just go after to it. And that will lead me to my next question, which is like, what is the legacy? That you want to. Yeah, like what is your legacy at the end?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I I would just I'm sort of like a light worker, if you've ever heard of that term before. I'm just a big believer in like helping others. So, if someone's going through a tough time, a simple conversation or a smile or handshake or how you going, like how you really going or how you doing, how you feeling, um, can really like turn someone's trajectory around. Um, and so for me, I just think all these different things that I'm doing are just different versions of the same thing. So like my my mission or my purpose behind each thing is for people to feel seen and heard. So, if my videography business can help put small business owners in the spotlight around their own personal mission and purpose, to me, that makes me feel as though I'm making that small business owner be seen and heard. So I'm huge on humans in general, like all of us deserve to be seen and heard. Um, that's how we come together, really. Like, I think if our experience isn't validated on some level, it's just very isolating. We all deserve to feel connected in that way. So for me, yeah, performing on stage and doing that is just another way of like spreading that energy and giving that zest for life to an audience. And videography and communicating that through media, it's just another version of like spreading that zest for life and that to be seen and heard as well. So yeah, the legacy I want to leave behind, I suppose for me, I just want people, it's that kind of visualization of like, if you could be at your own funeral, what would they say? And I feel as though, like, for me, it would just be um, that I want people to remember the kindness and yeah, the moments that I was able to sort of like help people through things. Um, and potentially, look, the older I get, I may be able to also continue to do that with people who are younger than me. So, guiding people who are more like have this innocence about them or naivety about them, and like just kind of like in the nicest way possible, guiding them through life. Because, like, when we're younger, we're in this big wide world, and if you don't have the right parenting or the right mentors or teachers around you, it can be a really like lonely and vast experience. You're kind of floating and you don't really know where you're going or who you are or what your gifts or talents are to be like, do I go over here or do I go over there? Like, what's going to sort of bring me the best experience for my life, whether that's financially, if you want to grow a family, like years in the future, if you're a young person, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's for me, it's just wanting to like impart on others maybe the sorts of things I wish were given to me but weren't given to me. I was really lucky to have a mentor through my hairdressing career when I was like still doing my apprenticeship. I was in my third year and had a mentor by the name of Bob. Bless him, he's passed on now. So he had some health issues and things like that in his 70s and passed on during COVID lockdowns, during the last lockdown for us in Melbourne. Um, but he was just one person who happened to come into my life at a time where it was the toughest. Um, and he really was like a shining light to me. And because I was so lucky to have that influence in my life as an 18-year-old, it really showed me the impact you can have, even if it just is on one person. So, you know, it's so easy in performing arts to get swept up in the idea of like being famous, having all the followers and all this kind of stuff. But I think, in you make a deeper impact, like being one on one. And, it's I've had people say to me like it's good to have a small group, you keep your circle small, like the five people in your life that you can trust the most. Um, and so yeah, I think looking at those five people, those are the important ones to really like relationships to nurture and foster and things like that. And those can change as time goes on, but like, yeah, I just think remembering what's truly important. Um, and the ego loves, 10,000, 100,000 followers, a million followers, whatever it is. Like that gives you an adrenaline rush and it's very chemical. Um, but yeah, when you look at the deeper stuff, I think for me, it's just wanting people around me to know that I was able to sort of like help them in some way. Yeah, that's the legacy I want to leave behind.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. And you know what? Like my last question, so we can all enjoy and relax after after an epic, deep conversation here and there. I loved it.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
What do you think that could be the best title for this episode?
Ah, great question. My goodness. Um, a great title for the episode. Oh, I'm not sure. Can you give me like a keyword, do you reckon? And that might give me a prompt.
So we talk about so many things here, but we could include. So yeah, like a few words would be blithe, would be passion. Mm,
I reckon
a few.
authenticity or authentic, that's a great word. I think I mean you could call it like authenticity and creativity go hand in hand.
Sure, we
Maybe
can
it
use.
could be called that. It depends what like because every podcast will be slightly different with the way they kind of like theme or like, some are quite quirky and some are quite deep. Like it really depends on like the tone of your podcast. So if you could sum up your podcast in 3 words, what would you say?
3 words would be artistic, exciting, and terrifying sometimes.
And terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
yeah, I would sum up my podcast with that. Yeah, artistic, exciting, and terrifying. Artistic because of the whole, art, artists, yeah, incredible people that I've interviewed. Exciting because
Yeah.
I love getting the chance to talk with so many people from all over the world, and terrifying because you know what? I wouldn't say terrifying, but perhaps I might switch it to what is the word here? Mm,
Like
like mis
unpredictable,
Yeah, but because you never know how.
mysterious.
Maybe, yeah, because you never know how. Oh, yeah, because you never know how how much someone is gonna impact you somehow. You know what I mean?
Mm, mm.
Yeah, yeah. Between that, I would say, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take I'll take those for sure. And what about if we call this episode just "Life Goes On"?
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean?
That's
Life goes
that's the
on.
theme of my world at the moment. So yeah, that makes sense.
Life goes on. Yeah. So we have a title then. Life goes on. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds like a plan to me. I mean, at the end, you know what can I say? The fact that you're doing it, that you're able to create more stuff here and there, that you are passionate about, that you want to, yeah, that you want to send this kind of deeper message to your audience. Basically, I mean, that is incredible. And the fact that you, as you said, you want to help people, you want to kind of make them feel better and things like that. I mean, that is super cool, especially now in a world that somehow everybody is more angry than usual. Um,
Oh,
the fact,
I'm feeling
you
that.
know,
Yeah,
like effective, like the fact that if,
everyone.
yeah, the fact that if we can rely somehow on people like you who are, yeah, besides giving us interesting topics and a cool story, somehow managed us to forget about our difficult moments that perhaps we are facing it at the time and things like that. I mean, that is super cool. And that's badass. Now we understand why you're super badass.
Thank you. And I just
Yeah.
want to thank you for having me on the podcast as well. Like, I'm used to interviewing other people, but yeah, this has been such an honor or privilege, or yeah, feeling grateful to be a guest for a change. So thank you.
Yeah, anytime. And I also want to thank those who stay the whole episode. Let me know. Yeah, let us know. What do you think in the comments below? But also, in the description below, you're going to find all of Laura's social media because we discover why she's super badass. Let's make her viral. Hashtag Team Laura. And again, thank you for making this happen out there. Keep shining, keep rocking, keep being this incredible, of amazing, of a badass person you always are. Keep shining. And I'll see you in the next one.